All right, today we are talking about one of the most important concepts in all of tech, and that's the data that really fuels our modern world. We're going to break down the huge difference between structured and unstructured data. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, let me just ask you a question. When you think about artificial intelligence, what do you think is the single most critical ingredient? Is it, the super complex algorithms, or maybe the ridiculously fast computers? Well, the answer is actually a lot simpler than you might think. It's data, just plain old data. It is the absolute foundation for all of machine learning, for AI, for data science, you name it. Without data, even the most brilliant algorithm is basically just a fancy paperweight. Think of it this way. Data is the food that these AI systems need to eat, to learn, to grow, and to actually make smart decisions. So here's our game plan for this explainer. We're going to start with why data is literally the fuel for AI. Then we're going to break down the two main types, the neat and tidy structured stuff and the kind of wild but incredibly valuable unstructured stuff. After that, we'll put them head to head to see the differences. And then, most importantly, we'll dig into why this distinction really matters. Okay, first up, data as the fuel for AI. Before anyone can even dream of building a fancy algorithm, they have to start with the data itself. And probably the first rule of machine learning is that not all data is created equal. So understanding its basic forms is, without a doubt, your first and most important step. So what even is data? At its very core, it's really just a collection of raw information. I mean, think about it. The emails stacking up in your inbox, that's data. The thousands of photos on your phone, that's data too. Even every single time you click a button on a website, yep, that's another data point. They're all just little facts and observations that a computer can potentially learn from. And all of this raw information, it's pretty much split into two major categories. On one side, you have structured data, which is super organized. And on the other side, you have unstructured data, which, well, it has no fixed format at all. This is the fundamental split that we're going to explore. So let's talk about our second section, structured data. The easiest way to think about this is to just picture a perfectly organized spreadsheet. Everything has its place, it's all arranged in these beautiful, neat rows and columns. And that's exactly what structured data is. It's data that follows a very specific fixed format. And because it's so predictable, computers absolutely love it. It makes it so easy for them to process and to analyze. There are no surprises. The machine knows exactly what kind of information it's going to get in every single spot. Let's look at the main characteristics here. It has a clearly defined structure, right? Every single column has a specific meaning, like first name, age, or purchase price. This makes it incredibly easy to search and to analyze. And it's the kind of data that fits perfectly into traditional databases and spreadsheets. And you deal with structured data literally every single day. That Excel sheet you use to track your budget, that's structured data. Your bank statement with all the transactions listed in perfect rows and columns, also structured data. Even a simple list of student records with their name, age, and grades is a perfect example. Okay, so if structured data is like that perfectly organized library, then unstructured data, that's like a messy, chaotic, but unbelievably valuable attic. It's filled with things like old photos, handwritten letters, and home videos. It really is the chaos of real-world information. So by definition, unstructured data is pretty much everything else. It's all the stuff that doesn't follow a predictable format. It's the paragraph of text in an email. It's a photo. It's a video file. It's an audio recording. It's messy, it's complex, and that makes it way harder for a computer to understand right off the bat. And that leads us to its main characteristics. Since there's no predefined structure, you can't just drop it into a neat table. It needs a lot of work first, something we call pre-processing, just to pull out any meaning. But here's the kicker. Even with all that complexity, this messy stuff makes up the vast majority of all the data in the world. And this chart illustrates that point beautifully. I mean, just take a look at this. It's estimated that around 80% of all data being generated today is unstructured. 80%! Only a tiny 20% fits into those neat little tables we were just talking about. This is a staggering amount of information, and it's exactly why learning how to handle unstructured data is so crucial in AI today. So what does this 80% look like in your own life? Well, it's the text in your emails, it's the photos and videos you share, it's the music you listen to, and it's every single social media post you scroll past. It is everywhere, and it is absolutely filled with valuable context and information. All right, so now that we've met both of our players, let's put them side by side. Let's do a direct head-to-head comparison to really nail down the differences. This table really makes the contrast crystal clear. Take a look at the format. Structured data is fixed and predictable, while unstructured is totally free-form. This then impacts storage. You get tables for structured data versus just files and media for unstructured. But look at the analysis row. This is the biggest difference. Structured data is easy to work with, while unstructured data is way more complex. And finally, the examples sum it all up. It's neat numbers and records versus rich media like text, images, and audio. So, we've defined them, we've compared them, but why does any of this actually matter? Well, this is where we connect these ideas directly to how machine learning models really work. See, here's the crucial thing. Most AI models can't work directly with raw, messy, unstructured data. So the whole goal is often to transform that mess into a structured format the computer can understand. For example, an AI doesn't actually see a picture of a cat. It sees a structured grid of numbers that represent the pixel colors. It doesn't read a sentence. It sees a structured list of numbers that represent the words. This entire process, collecting the mess, cleaning it up, and giving it structure, is the absolute backbone of any machine learning project. And that really brings us to our key takeaway. This isn't just some academic idea. Understanding this difference is super practical because it helps you pick the right tools for the job. If you're working with clean sales data in a table, you'll use one set of models. But if you're trying to classify 1,000,000 photos, you'll need a totally different specialized tool. If you're trying to understand what customers are saying in their reviews, you'll need a language model. The type of data you have dictates your entire game plan. So I'll just leave you with this final thought. Think about all that unstructured data that exists in your own life. Your texts, your photos, your notes. Now that you know the difference, what kind of stories do you think are just hiding in all of that data, waiting to be told?